Okay. Alexa has told me we can begin. Okay, we're in the middle of a bunch of shilas from Rav Papa regarding chafina. It seemed to center about whether chafina is considered an avodah or not. We had a question whether chafina you can does it have to be like kmitza, the same guidelines as kmitza. We had this shaila about bein habinayim, matalacha is between the flower, between the fingers, like kmitza. We had the shaila whether you can have machshava of chutz lizman in the chafina, the same as a carbon, as mincha. And the Gemara continues along with those shilas. So we're on Mem Tes Amid Aleph. We're parallel to the Taisus Boy Rav Papa. 2, 4,
Please.
What?
They did the chafina. What? His hands were together, then he put them in, or they did
no, from the sides like this. They came like this,
right?
Like this, right?
I missed the last shiloh about this. I didn't understand that.
Which the shiloh was by smile, whether you can carry the thing with the left hand. Oh, the one before that?
I thought there was about how to take it this way. So maybe I just didn't understand it.
I think the shiloh was if you sink your hands in. If you sink your hands in like this, like if you just stick them in, right? Okay. Again, the shiloh bein habinayim is if it enters by itself, you're not taking it. It's like here you're taking, but whatever gets stuck in your fingers, it seems you're not taking. That seems to be the crux of the problem. And we remember that we said it's a takeaway. Then we had the shiloh about the left hand. We were poshit that left hand is no good. Left hand is no good, and that's where we're holding. So boy Rav Papa, chafein chaveroi. Let's say your friend does chafina, right? You're a kohen gadol. He does v'nasan l'toy chafanav. Someone does a chafina and he puts it in the kohen gadol's hands. Mahu moli chafanav beinin v'ha'ika. You need his palmful and you have it. In other words, he didn't do the act of chafina, but in fact he does have the palmful of the ketores. You need that he should go ahead and bring it in. We saw yesterday that the act of bringing in lakach, they have to have in the sina. That was the problem with bein habinayim. There wasn't a lakicha. He didn't take it. It seeped in. So there's the shaila. What would the din be? And the Gemara says there as well, teku. The Gemara says another shaila is Rav teku. Another interesting shaila. Boy Rav Yeshua ben Levi. Chafein. The kohen gadol does chafina. He puts it in the kaf. He then puts it in the spoon for transport. Umeis, and he consequently dies. The kohen gadol dies. Ma'ushi chanes acha b'chafinasai. What's the halacha about an other going in after his chafina? I'm just going to put so the shaila is the kohen gadol went ahead. He did the chafina. He put it in the kaf. He consequently died. And now the shaila is, can an other person, the sagan who's going to take his place, or the new kohen gadol, right? Can he go and bring it in? Can he go bring it in, or does he have to do his own chafina? So that's the shaila at hand. Boy Rabbi Shua ben Levi, chafein umeis, ma'ushi chanes acha b'chafina. So what's the din of an other coming in with his chafina? Some Reb Chanina, bo re'ei, right? Sha'altas arishonim. So Rabbi Chanina exclaims, look at the Sheila of the Rishonim, meaning like Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was before Rabbi Chanina, that he was, again, in other words, Rabbi Chanina loves the Sheila about the Sheila of the Rishonim as connotating that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was older than Rabbi Chanina. So the Gemara digresses to show you that Rabbi Chanina in fact was older. Remember the Rabbi Yehuda ben Levi Kashisha? You mean to tell me that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was cautious, was older than Rabbi Chanina? From Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Li hit the Rabbi Chanina. Now the raya is going to be from that, guys. Li to me hit the Rabbi Chanina. By the fact that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi referred to Rabbi Chanina as a Rebbe is a raya that he preceded him. Because if he was younger than him, he would have said Li hit the Chanina. The fact that he gave him the title of Rebbe shows he was Hashisha. So we're going to continue with the digression, but the raya, the kasha is going to be from those words that I just highlighted, okay? The words that he said, Li hit the Rebbe Chanina, that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi referred to him as Rebbe Chanina shows that he was older than him. He permitted me, Lishta Shachlayim, to drink kress b'Shabbos. Fred Gemara Lishta, of course you can drink kress b'Shabbos. What? It's a shaila of refuah, Pshita did non kala oichlin oichel adon l'refuah. Any food a person is able to eat for refuah, v'chol a mashkin shoysen, and any mashkin a person can drink. In other words, if it's a natural remedy that does not require some type of concocting it, it's a natural food. It's a food you're able, or drink you're able to do it. Ella, the shiloh is lishchaik for lishtais. Now already lishchaik is concoction. You have to go ahead and grind it down. Then it's a problem. Now hechidami. Idik is sakanta. If it's sakana mishra shari, it's mutta. So what's the shiloh? If you deleka sakanta meser asal l'manushach, it seems to be an easy shiloh. So what's that? Li hitter Rabbi Chanina. Loilam deika sakanta. There's a sakana. V'hachi kami boile. Here's the shiloh. Mi masya the nechlo lai shabbata. Mimasya, does it really cure? Does it really work? That we should be Mechal Shabbos on it or not? Because to go ahead and grind something, according to everyone, is an Issa Daraisa. Toichin is one of the 39 of us malachas. So to go ahead and do it, it would be mutter to do if it helps. But if it doesn't help, so that's the shayla. Li hit the Rebbe Chanina Hasis when he matted me to go ahead and grind the shechlayim. It must be its renowned remedy that works. I like Masya. V'leinechol Shabbata. U'maishna Rebbe Chanina. Why Rabbi Chanina of all people that he permitted it? Mishum the Baki B'Refuah. So he was an expert in Refuah. Dam Rabbi Chanina me'olam le'shaleni adam al maka pardo levena. I've never asked by a person who was smitten, kicked, I guess, by a white mule and lived. Fredim Rabbi Chassin and the Chaya, we fact see they do live. So what do you mean? In fact, we see that the people they do live. So what do you mean they never live? Right? So Ema v'choisa. Don't say live, means chaysa that got healed. We see that the kick of a white mule does get healed. So the Gemara answers, sumkin inhu v'chivrin reish karayu kamina. We're speaking about those mules that are red and their feet have white tips. I guess if you get kicked by one of those, it's going to remain with you. The bottom line is that we see that he referred to him as Rebbe. Mikol Makom. Shmami no the Rabbi Chanina kashis from Rabbi Yeshua and Levi. So what did he mean that Rabbi Chanina said that we had a kasha from the Rishonim? Mashma Rabbi Yeshua and Levi was older. So Ella Hachi Kama. Here's the way you have to read it. She'elton kishe'ela shel Rishonim. This question of Yeshua and Levi is a question like from the Rishonim, meaning himself. This question that he's asking. I had the same question. This question whether the Kohen Gadol dies, whether you can bring in his chafina or not, or the new Kohen has to go ahead and do his own chafina. Okay. Now, Fred Gemara, Umi Omer Reb Chanina Hachi. Okay, guys, let's go through this. We need to have the par brought before the Ketairis. Going through the order of the day, we said the vidoy of the par, we did the goyrel, we did the second vidoy, we did the shchita. Then we went ahead and had the guy going ahead and doing this. We had the kohen go up with the coals and now with the chafina, right? Clearly the par had to be what? Had to be geshochten before the chafina. Now, what happens if the kohen gadol dies? Do you need a new par? Or you could even use the existing dam of the par that's being stirred. If you hold, you can use the existing dam that's stirred, then you have no problem. Because we're going to have the par precede the ketairis. Whether the ketairis is used from the original kohen or it's a new chafina, we're going to still have the par, the dam, being used because it was ready. We didn't change that. On the other hand, if you're going to tell me that you have to shech the new par, then how could you possibly have a havamina to use the existing chafina? We need the chafina to take place after the par. And there's a shayla whether the par is brought in or the dam is brought in. So this question of Reb Chanina really is contingent upon something else. It's contingent upon whether you have to bring another par or not. Says the Gemara, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Gemara. Umi Amar Reb Chanina Hachi. Does Reb Chanina really say there's a shayla whether the kohen gadol dies that you'll be able to bring in his ketayres, the one that he did chafina? From Reb Chanina, it says bepar. It says bepar. Right, the par yovel, the par chatas yovel el kapiris. Right, he comes in the par chatas. For loy b'domishal par, meaning it has to be his par and not the dam of a par. What does that mean? V'ramav chanina kitayris shechafana koydem shchitas apar. Kitayris that was that you did chafina, that you filled your hands with before the par was shechted, layasav leiklum. So, guys, in the sequence, fellas, it doesn't work out. Why? Reb Chanina, you have a shaila. What's your shaila? Whether you can go ahead and use existing chafina of a dead kohen gadol. Of course you can't. There's no shaila. Why? Because you hold it, once the kohen gadol dies, the dam that's being stirred, forget about that. You're going to have to shech the new one. And the chafina must precede the shchita. So Memela, it's a moot point. Your shaila is not a point. So why does Reb Chanina have such a shaila? Why does Reb Chanina have such a shaila? It's not a shaila. Since you need the shchita of the par to precede the chafina, and you hold that if the kohen gadol dies, you need a new par. Of course, you can't use the chafina of the kohen gadol, of the preceding kohen gadol, because you have to need a new par that has to precede the chafina. So why do you hold it such a great question? Guys, you good? Okay. Sequentially, Dov, watch. You need the shchita of the par to precede the chafina. Good? Let's call it A before B. Yes? A before B. Now here's your shaila. B at the point of B, the kohen gadol dies. Can I use B again?
No, because you need A first.
What kind of shaila is that? Once the kohen gadol dies at B, A is off the board. You have to do it again. And you can't have BA, you have to have AB. Now you understand it. Okay, great. So says the Gemara, so what was it says the Gemara, you're right. Hachi Kamar. This is what Rabbi Chanina was saying. When Yeshua ben Levi asked the Shaila, Mechlal, we can figure out, we can infer the Kesavar bepar vafilu b'damay shel par. It must be that you don't have to bring in the par, you can bring in the dam of the par. So the first par is still there. A is going to precede B. The shaila is now B. Is the B of the original guy or another one? Right, but A is always going to be first because the par preceded the chafina, it preceded point B. So you see that what? And according to that way of thinking, that he holds that you don't need a new par, then his shaila is like the shaila of the Rishayim. So now the Gemara asks, "My Havila." I was taish. What's the bottom line? In other words, lot those people who hold that you could use the existing par, can you use the existing chafina, or would you have to use a new one? So Amar Rav Papa says Rav Papa. Okay, guys, we're gonna have a shaila on the Amid base. Do you need one chafina or another chafina? Do you need one chafina or another chafina? In other words, this is the shaila, and this is the maskana. The kohen gadol takes a fistful, palmful, puts it in a kaf, goes inside the kachik kedoshim, and does this acrobatic act of somehow putting the coals down, taking a spoonful of ketairis and getting it into his hands, and then putting it on the coals. So that's two chafinis. One initially before he put it in the spoon, and one from the spoon into his hands. Good? Or no, maybe he just needs one chafina, and when he does one chafina, and when he goes in, he just pours in the good. That's the shaila. So now, guys, like this. If you hold you chayfen v'chayse v'chayfen, you need two chafinis, then you ostensibly you should be able to use the existing kaf. Why? You have the chafina of the dead kohen before he put it in, and then this new kohen, when he gets inside, will do the acrobatic act for the second chafina. But if you hold ein chayse v'chayfen, so that's the Gemara shaila. Says the Gemara, my havi lo amra papa. If you need two acts of filling the palms, his chaveru can go in with his chafina, with the dead's coming chafina, the mekayim chafina, because it was mekoyim the chafina. And in ein chayfa v'chayfa tiboilach. The shaila is if what? If you don't need another chafina. The Gemara, Amalach Rav Huna, Reder Yeshua Papa. In other words, you don't need another chafina, so you're based on this one, Adarabba. It's not. Don't go in and use the original one. Why? He it's not possible that you won't. The second guy won't have a little more, a little less. However, right? That is a shaila. So if it's speaking that I hear better that you only need one chafina, meaning going from the spoon into the hands. That's a shaila. But going from the original to this to that, then not. Rashi says, Adrabi, ichayfim v'chayz v'chayfin, as ein chaveri nichnes b'chafina say, she efshe shle yechasa chaveri, shle yaisa chafana shel rishayin, shav nechvana shel sheni. Guys, in ein chayz v'chayfin, you had one chafina already. This one, right? You bring it in, and now the guy pours it in. Everything's great. But if you're going to tell me you need this guy to go ahead and take the original guys, it's not possible for him to get the exact amount as the first guy. So the Gemara says, as Diboilu, chayfin v'chayzim v'chayfin, do we need two chafinis aloi? Toshma, kachoysim midasa, that's the midah of what, we had this Gemara before, the midah, the Mishnah said, is godloi fi godloi v'kotn lefi kotnoi. So my lav kashem shemidasim mibachutz kach midasim mibfnim. The same midah on the outside, that's the same midah on the inside. Loi dilma shematz lasas midah oisim. Maybe it means if you want to make a kli that holds that amount, you could. Umishla yachsav leyoser. And maybe it means inami. Maybe it means that he should not take less or more, but that exact amount. But you have no raya that he has to do a second chafina. Toshma, let's go. Ketzadu oisa. Now you're going to see oiches es a besech, biroish etzboisav. He holds the besech. He holds the spoon. The besech is the spoon with the ketairis at his tip. And the Yeshoyim machine of other places they say he holds it with his teeth. We'll get to a kash in a second. Umala begoidloi at shemagia lebein atzolav, and he pulls it up towards with his thumbs until the handle reaches between his elbows, and then and he tilts it till he gets it to his hand. So in other words, let's say this is the spoon. He works this up. He works it up till he's able to do something like that, right? To do something like that. So obviously that what? He's going ahead and doing a second chafina. So we can push the shaila of what? Chayfin v'chayz v'chayfin. It's sorba. And it continues. What does he do? He puts it on the coals. He should do it slowly. No, mefaze does it quickly. That should be a lot of smoke. We had this before. Zui v'suloi. That's the most. We had others for ikam malika, the act of malika, in the oilas oif or the chatas oif, where he puts this nail behind the neck, breaks the bone, and severs the trachea and esophagus. There's the act of kamitza when it's on a machavas or macheshes where he has to cut the crumbs exactly. The bottom line we hear from here, we hear from here that what? That he, in fact, that mashma, we want to place the shaila about what? About whether the kohen can go ahead and use somebody else's or not. But you need chafina. Now, we had a kasha Gemara earlier. The Gemara said earlier, it doesn't mention this kaf. This kaf of the Torah, there's no mention of it. And if you look in the Torah, there's no mention of it. It's all the Torah Shabbat Peh. So the Gemara asks, why don't you do the following? Take the palm of his hands, take the fire pan, hold it in the palm of his hands, go in, right? Go in, and somehow get the fire pan on the floor, and go ahead and then use his hands. So the Gemara said, how's he going to get the fire pin on the floor? So the Gemara gave an eight, so maybe with his teeth, he can somehow hold it up and put it down and then do this, and you won't have a kaf. So the Gemara asked the kasha, Lifnei melech basav adam, you don't do that. Lifnei melech malchei malachim, you can do such an act with your teeth. It's levucha ara. It's not normal to do that. So Freg Toisvis, right? Freg Toisvis on Mem Zayin Amar Aleph. Let's go back to Toisvis on Mem Zayin Amar Aleph. It's the first Toisvis in the parak. Says Toisvis, Hoitzialai hashtel lifnei melech basav adam ein oisakain tamali v'amal kamon noitel abezech b'roishetz basav. He takes the kaf with his fingers. Heishoim and b'shinav. And other people say what with his teeth. How could he do this? Hashtel lefnei melech bas v'damei nice and Cain. Good. Guys, so geschmack, right? Over here, when you discuss trying to figure out how to go ahead and use the machta, we said use his teeth, and over here he's going to use his teeth. He's just going ahead and pulling it a little bit towards him. But the bezach's not suspended. It's on his hands. Munach. Is pulling it etzloi b'shinov. Kedei lechofim pamacheres. Mashma, to take your teeth and mamish go ahead and put it on the floor, that's not. But to go ahead and use your teeth as a hechatimsa of just bringing it, pulling it towards you, that would be okay. So make the Gemara, it's a mitzvah that you had to be miyashiv. It's a pasha kasha and a chelik. So Shema Mina, again, this is a very, very difficult avoida. Again, there are different ways. There's pictures of it. Pictures of how he did this. Again, think about it. He's got a machta in one hand. He puts down the machta like this. Now he's got his hands full of ketairis and he's got a spoon. His hands are empty, and somehow he has to get that spoonful totally in and not missing, guys. He can't be missing a granule. So he has to somehow get that bezach and somehow invert it. So he inverts it with his thumb to kind of turn it over. It's a very, very difficult avodah. Very, very difficult avodah. Yet, many Kohanim Gedolim wanted to do this in the second bias, and guess what? They did not have a good ending. Iboilu, shochat umeis, mahu sheyachnes acher bedamai. Okay, so this is we had the shaila earlier, right? This is what Rabbi Chanina said, that you need a new par. So now shochat umeis, if the Kohen Gadol he goes ahead, shechts his par, and he dies before he goes in to do this rika. Mahu sheyachnes acher bedamai. Can another Kohen Gadol take it in? So l'chayra. This was the machlokes between Rabbi Chanina and Yeshua ben Levi. Like Rabbi Chanina, obviously, you can't. You need a new power. Like Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, you would need what? You would be able to go ahead. Mi amrina and bipar, vafilu b'damish par. When it said, B'zois yavai aron al kodesh bipar, guys, when it said bipar, when you're bringing in a par, right? B'zois yavai aron al kodesh, you're bringing in a par, it means, obviously, it must mean what? Right? A live par. Meaning you need, meaning the par means even the dam. Guys, when Aaron's going into the Kodesh Kedoshim, he's not bringing in a par. He's not taking a par and leading him in, right? So what? So it must be bedam. On the other hand, you could say no. It has to be his par, and if he's dead, it's not his par. So that's the shaila. Which way do we go? So we have Rabbi Chanina's opinion that he said yesterday, that earlier in the daf. Rabbi Chanina Amar, bipar v'loy b'damish par. You need a new one. You need it, right? Reish Lakish Amar, bipar v'afilu b'damish par. No, you could use the existing par of the dead Kohen Gadol. Rabbi Ami Amar, bipar v'loy b'damish par, similar to what, like Rabbi Chanina, and Rabbi Yitzchak Amar, bipar v'afilu b'damish par, like Rabbi Reish Lakish. Esvei Rabbi Ami, who says that you need the par, Rabbi Yitzchak, who says even the dam, Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, who says even the dam, and we know by Korban Pesach, fellas, you remember that you have to be counted in, and you have until times of the shechita to go ahead and right liyos b'seh, to be counted in. The chusal said to be counted on the seh, right? We had that in Masechta. The Mimayra Abayis meheyos miseh, right? He takes another one, but each person has to be counted on the seh. So now, nimnoyim, they can go ahead and change their minds, and draw the hands away, mimenu yishchait, until it's geshachtin. Vim isa, and if you're going to tell me when a par is dead, it's still called a par. When a seh is dead, it should still be called a seh. The dama shall seh shall be like the dama of the par. Vim isa, that it's still called a seh when it's dead. Don't say that you can change your mind at yishchait. You should say you should change your mind at Shei Yizrok till you can go ahead and do this Rika. Says Gemara, change the gear. So Shiny Hassan says different by Seh. Ichsiv meyos miseh. Ve'im yimat habayis meyos miseh. Michiyusay the Seh. While the Seh is alive. So it has to be there. We need the Seh to be alive. And if the Seh is not alive, then it's not considered a Seh. But the Parah doesn't say meyos mi par, and therefore it's okay. Masiv Bar Sutra. Another question who says that it's considered a par even when it's dead. Now we know this is an opinion petach hamor, that the petach hamor is tifta b'sev and loy sifta rafta. Petach hamor l'chavid. We had a gemara that they helped take out of Mitzrayim. The seh helped take the load out of Mitzrayim. The chamorim, they helped take the load out of Mitzrayim. As a result, and they were at this kedusha to the bechor, and you have to go ahead and be poida. You poida with a seh, or you break its neck. Now, Masa Mazutra ain't poida. You can't be poida a chamor. Lei be'egel, not using a calf. Lei bechaya, not by a deer. Lei b'shchuta, not an animal. A seh is not that a seh that's geshachten, not a seh that's geshachten, but a live seh. V'lei b'treifa, not with a treifa. V'lei b'klayim, not with a keep. V'lei b'koi, not with a koi. Ela b'seh. It's got to be a live seh. Now, when we're contrasting not a shchuta, not a seh, you see it's only called a seh when it's alive. It's not called a seh if it's dead. So within the par should not be called par after it's dead, only when it's alive. So the Mashani Hassam, the Yolav says Semi Pesach. Over there we have a Gezerah Shava, says Semi Pesach. And just like Pesach, we established it says Mehiyos Miseh, it has to be alive. So too by opinion Petach Hamar, it has to be alive. Imala Halin Yolea Zocha Tamin Ben Shana. By Korban Pesach, it has to be a year-old male, right? Afkan Zocha Tamin Ben Shana. So too by Pidyon Petach Hamar would have to be a male, a year old, less than a year old. Tamaloima Tifte Sifte Riba. It says twice, Sifte to include that what? Anything. To include even what? Even one that's not a male and even one that's not a year old. For the Gemara, Sifte Riba, I feel a cool inamis. Let's include an ega, let's include a shchuta. Says when King said, "My hanile." If that's the case, you're going to include all these things. Why does Seh help you? Why does the Seh help you? And then we'll stop over here. Okay, thank you everybody for being here.